I am Jacob Ado, again welcoming you to another English language class. Today, we'll be talking about something a little different from what we discussed in our last class. We're talking about punctuation. In our last class, we discussed the comma, and we talked about how important the comma is in writing. And generally, we talked about the punctuation marks. We said they are very important to writers and readers, just the same way traffic signs are important to road users. And we said that if punctuation marks are not correctly used, they are very likely to give the wrong message. That is why it becomes very important that writers know very well how to use the punctuation marks. Today, our discussion will focus on the full stop. The full stop is a very important part of writing. There's hardly any kind of writing that will not require the use of a full stop. At two passages here, two short passages. These passages have something about them that makes them look like they are the same. But the difference in these two passages is about the punctuation. They are punctuated differently, and that punctuation has changed their meaning. Look at this. I love my father. In the village, people love him too. For his good works, he has received awards. That cannot be ignored. When he dies, we will display them at his burial. Try to look at these two passages and understand how they are different. I read the second. I love my father in the village. People love him too for his good works. He has received awards that cannot be ignored when he dies. We will display them at his burial. Now, the first passage, the writer loves his father, and people in the village also love the same father. And for the good works of this father, he has received awards. Alright, now the second one says, he loves his father in the village, which seems to say that he possibly has another father in the village, and he loves the one in the village. Perhaps he doesn't love the one in the city. People love him too for his good works. Now this second passage says people love this father for his good work. But the first passage says that people love him too in the village. And it is for his good works that he has been able to get awards. But in this second passage, it says he has received awards that cannot be ignored when he dies. So you can see the difference in the two short passages, and this difference is made possible just because of how the punctuation is used. Just the comma and the full stop have made this difference to be the way it is. Okay. How do we define the full stop? The full stop, like other punctuation marks, is generally defined based on its uses. So, it is difficult to define it in one specific way. Let us note this, that we should not only memorize the functions of the full stop or any other punctuation mark. We have to know them for use. We have to know them based on how they are used, based on how important they are in our writings. understand why you should use the full stop. Understand it very well. If you understand how to use the full stop the right way, you'll be interested in using it all the time, okay, when you write, because you will be conscious of what you say. You will understand that not using a particular punctuation mark in a particular place could send the wrong message. And if by mistake the tip of your pen drops on your paper and creates a mark somewhere, maybe in between words, you see, leaving it there could change your expression because it's there representing a punctuation mark. You will not be happy to let it be there. That is something that happens for a person that has good knowledge of punctuation mark. Okay? Now, what does the punctuation do? I mean, specifically the full stop we are talking about. What does it do? How important is it in our writing? Let us look at this short passage. I am famished. In fact, if I don't eat in the next 2 hours, something bad can happen to me. My brother will do the cooking because I am not strong enough to stand. Let me sleep a bit. I should not be awoken until food is ready. If you follow this writing, you will discover instances where the full stop is used. And if you listened to my reading properly, you will understand that wherever the full stop is, there is a longer pause. So there is a longer pause between sentences than within them. Okay, let me read that again. I am famished. In fact, if I don't eat in the next 2 hours, something bad can happen to me. My brother will do the cooking because I am not strong enough to stand. Let me sleep a bit. I should not be awoken until food is ready. So there is a pause, a longer pause, wherever there is a full stop. Why do we need that? It is important because it tells the other person listening that you have stated a point. You have used a group of words to state a point, and now you are entering another point where you will start with a different word to form another group of words. So that is, our words in our communication are grouped into sentences, and each of these sentences have specific information. Okay, so by the time you make a sentence, you have given a particular point, and after that you go to the next sentence where you make another point. At the end of the day, or at the end of your communication, no matter how many sentences you have used, all of them are brought together to make the whole meaning of what you are intending to say. Okay, and then the information you have brought is made clear, and then the listener can follow very well. Okay, so that is what we must do. So if we write without the full stop, for instance, let us look at the first few words in the passage. I am famished, in fact. Oh, let me say it this way. I am famished, in fact. So without the full stop, without observing the pause between famished and in fact, it becomes a different thing altogether. The full stop is also used after abbreviations and initials. For instance, you can have Mr. written as MR and the full stop. You have Doctor written as DR and the full stop. You have Professor written as PROF and the full stop. Now these are abbreviations of words. Understand that this kind of abbreviation is based on convention. Do not just begin to abbreviate anything by taking out part of the words. You must do it according to a particular trend. It has to be something that is already known. Okay? However, words like Mr. and Mrs. can recently be written without the full stop at the end. So if you do it that way too, you are still very okay. USA is written with the dots separating the letters, the initials of the different words in the name, United States of America. If initials can be read together as a word, they can be written without the full stop separating them. For example, you can have NAFDAC, cocaine, ECOWAS, and several others. Okay, now in this situation, you must be careful to understand that the full stop is not used just in any kind of collection of initials. And recently, it has become not such a strict rule, because USA, for instance, could also be written without the full stop separating the letters. Okay, so even though the collection of initials is not forming a word, it can still be written without the full stop separating the initials. But then you have to be careful as you write such kind of initials so that you don't send the wrong message to those who will be reading whatever you are writing. It is used at the end of commands. Don't go there. Stop dancing on the table. Get out of the room so I can clean it. You must do your assignment before you go to bed. These are commands. So you use the full stop at the end of commands. Commands like the first three do not have the subject, and that is why it is treated differently from the sentence, where you would always have the subject and the predicate. The subject is a very important part of a sentence. That is the subject part of the sentence. In this case, you have an expression like, don't go there. So, who is not to go there? Okay, so this doesn't give the same expression as you have in a complete sentence, and that is why we are treating it differently as a command, because it doesn't have the structure of a complete sentence. Alright, that is one way you can use the full stop. Again, it is used at the end of indirect questions. You have to explain why you ignore the principal's instruction. You must say who gave you the money you used to buy a new shirt. Ask him what he did to the sick dog that now looks so healthy. These three examples show us how we use the full stop at the end of indirect questions. These statements could have been questions, and if they are questions, they will use the question mark. The first one, you have to explain why you ignored the principal's instruction. That could have just been, why did you ignore the principal's instruction? The second example also, you must say who gave you the money you used to buy a new shirt. When you remove the first three words, you must say, you have the question, who gave you the money you used to buy a new shirt? The last sentence is the same. What he did to the sick dog that now looks so healthy. So these are supposed to be questions, but they are converted to sound like just mere statements, and that is why they are regarded as indirect questions, and therefore wouldn't need to carry the question mark. Now, here's your assignment. Punctuate the passage given below. I will read it. Well, I wouldn't know if it will make any sense, but by the time it is properly punctuated, it will make a lot of sense. Let me read it as though this is how it's meant to be. My name is Nanli and I am from Plateau State. I enjoy reading books about animals. Are my favorite stories help me to know about people in distant places. I have read Things Fall Apart, Lion and the Jewel and Samankwe and the Forest because I can't sit for a long time. I prefer short novels. Now this is how you will read a passage that is without punctuation. And at the end of the day, you're not going to get anything, any message from the passage. But if it is properly punctuated, then the information is made clear, and whoever reads understands whatever the speaker wants to communicate. You need to practice all you have learned here today. That is the only way to learn it well. Okay, you have to practice. Keep practicing until you get it very well. You can always ask questions if you have one. If you have questions to ask, do ask, and you get answers for them. The full stop is used at the end of a sentence, after initials and abbreviations, at the end of a command, at the end of an indirect question. Get this, do not use it at the end of a topic, subtopic, or a heading. You don't have to use a full stop in such instances, even if the heading looks like a complete sentence. If it's a heading, you don't need to use the full stop. Okay? Even though the full stop could be used in several other instances. For instance, in the name of a website, you have www dot and all of that. Just like I said it, it is called a dot. So a dot and a full stop, are they the same thing? Well, we're not going to be talking about that, but I have explained very essentially that the full stop plays a very important role in communication. Anything outside communication, well, that will have to be explained in a different manner too. Thank you for your attention. Let's meet again next class.